Dues are the same price as last year. We encourage everybody to become SBE certified or up your certification if you are already certified. And next exam dates are listed. Well, the next exam date is June 4th through 14th, but I believe that time is expired for registering for that. But you can go to the national website and see the other times available this year. SBE is once again doing a compensation survey, and that's online now. Go to the national website and find the link to that and take the survey, and they will send you the results in July. SBE Awards Program is awaiting your nominations for chapter and individual awards. We discussed that at the last meeting. If you know of somebody that'd like to be that you think should be Engineer of the Year for our chapter, then you contact me or fill out the form on the national website. Right now, I'm going to turn things over to Dan Ryson from Chapter 37, the DC chapter. He's got an invite for us that he can discuss.
Thank you, Tom. In fact, it's kind of cheeky for us in Washington to be holding this meeting because it really is an event that took place in New York State, in your turf, 60 years ago on June 1st, which was the beginning of FM stereo broadcasting. And of course, the proponents in that were both Zenith and GE, and GE has a big presence in Schenectady. So because the FCC approved broadcasting to begin on June 1st at midnight, and the East Coast GE station had midnight come around before the Zenith station in Chicago, WEFM, rolled around. They were the first and second FM stereo stations in the country. Before the stereo method was decided upon, there was a bake-off that took place in the summer of 1960 at KDKA FM. So our meeting on the 1st will have Richard Burden, who was instrumental in that bake-off and part of the what's now IEEE committee that picked the present system. He's the last surviving member of that committee, and he'll be talking with us about his experiences then. So we're inviting you folks and the people in Chicago and Pittsburgh, since all three markets were instrumental in this, on June the 1st, 6:30 p.m. It's a Tuesday night. We'd be happy to have you.
Anybody have any questions for Dan?
Yes.
Discussion? Go ahead, Gary.
You might check the history on that a little bit because at that time, the GE broadcast division was in Syracuse.
I'm sorry, I meant to say Syracuse. What did I say, Gary?
Schenectady.
I think you said
Schenectady.
WG.
Good.
Oh, okay.
Good Lord. Yes.
You've got the wrong call letters. WGFM is in Schenectady.
Here's Brian Pohl.
Okay. In any event.
It was WSYR FM.
Okay. I'll check that.
Dan or Tom, will you be sending that information around to everybody?
Yes, everybody that gets our notices about our meetings will get a notice about Chapter 37's meeting on June 1st. When Dan gets the Zoom information over to me, I'll get that out to you. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Tom. Happy to be your guest tonight. Appreciate the invite.
Dan's been inviting me to some of their chapter meetings, so I do have some ideas for presentations. And I thank you, Dan, for that. And it's nice to sit in on somebody else's meeting to see how they do it. And always room for improvement. And that helps. Thank you.
And of course, all of you are always welcome to join in anytime. We've been doing virtual Zoom meetings since last year, and drop in anytime. SBE37.org.
Is your new website up yet?
No, we're still tinkering with it. It's a perpetual process.
Still working on it. Okay. Just an update on the expo. I told you last month that National is going to meet in April. They have changed that. They had to postpone it due to some conflicts. So they will meet on May 10th the board will meet on May 10th, and that's when they will discuss attending our expo in 2022. So we're on hold still. I don't want to commit at Holiday Inn to a contract until I know what we're doing there. If National's participating, obviously we need more space, and if they're not, then less space. So once I know that, then exhibitors that have already paid for 2020, we extended that to 2021. At that point, I'll notify them that what we're doing, and they can get a refund or apply their payment to 2022. But I'll make sure we have a commitment on the dates first. Does anybody else have any new business they'd like to discuss? Last chance. If you joined late, if you didn't hear me earlier, we discussed whether Bob White was a charter member. He passed away in February. We aren't sure. He worked at Channel 9 many years ago. I did reach out to National today. I haven't heard back yet, so we should find that out before our next meeting. And if he was a member of the chapter, I'd certainly like to do something in honor of him, and we can discuss that then.
That sounds good.
Anybody have anything? Okay. Anything else? Who would like to make a motion to close Chapter 22 business meeting? I can do that. I'll make the motion. Who would like to second it?
I'll second it.
Who's that?
Peters.
Peters.
Pete? Okay, I thought so. Hi,
Yeah.
Pete.
I joined late, I'm
All in
sorry.
favor? That's all right.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Okay, so at this point, I'd like to welcome Martin Lindsay from Sony for tonight's presentation. I don't know why that changed there. There must have been a transition on that, but I'll turn it over to you, Martin, and thank you for coming out and presenting for us tonight.
Okay, great, thank you.
Let me unshare my screen.
I am going to share my screen here. And you should see a slide now.
Not yet.
Yes. No.
Oh, I know, I didn't push the actual share button. There we go, share.
There you go.
See a full screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I'm Martin Lindsay. I'm the product manager of Sony's wireless workflows, as well as our news production systems and our ENG camcorders. So today, I think the focus of what we're going to talk about is our wireless workflows using XDCam Air, which is a cloud service provided by Sony. And I'm really going to just start by talking about the camcorder lineup and how all the different types of camcorders that we've launched in the recent years have similar functionalities in terms of network capabilities. Starting with, the entry level X70s, Z90s, the small palm quarters, to the handhelds such as the X180, the Z190, and the older X200, as well as the newest handheld camera, RPXW Z280. And then, of course, into our shoulder mount cameras. And also including the cinematic cameras as well. So there's a wide range of cameras that now have the network functionality built into them that allow you to do file transfers, allow you to do live streaming, and also allow you to do remote control of the cameras as well. So the features are a little different depending on the camera style and the camera model that you might have. But some of the cameras do have the Wi-Fi built into them. So you don't need an antenna, for example. You don't need a USB dongle, whereas others do need a USB dongle to plug in to get you that Wi-Fi connectivity. But again, the point is to get you all that camera connected to the internet. And again, that can be done through Wi-Fi, or some of the cameras have an RJ45 connector on them. So if you have a drop, you can plug that in directly to the network through that RJ45 connection. And of course, you can use an LTE dongle, an LTE USB dongle to plug into the cameras to also get you that connectivity to the internet. So in that sense, they obviously support the connections to 4G and 5G. Now 5G, the cameras don't really care about talking to 5G as long as they can talk to the modem that is going to talk via 5G. So for example, you could tether these cameras to a phone that would connect via 5G. And then we have Content Browser Mobile, which is a little application that you can run on your phone. It's a free download, and that'll allow you to locally access the camera, access media on the camera, do storyboard edits, and also execute file transfers out of the camera, such as an FTP file transfer. So I'm going to go into, I don't want to spend too much time on slides today, so I'm going to go into the actual user interface itself, but just wanted to start off by a high level overview of the equipment that Sony provides to connect to the cloud service XDCam Air. So we also have an adapter in the middle here. You'll see it's a WA100. It's called a CBK WA100. It's about 4 inches by 4 inches by about 1 inch thick. And this can be mounted to the side of a camera or anywhere you wish, really. And it allows you to take any device that doesn't have streaming capabilities built into it and basically turn that device into a streaming device. So legacy equipment or non-Sony equipment, anything that really has an SDI output, you can connect this to and plug in a Wi-Fi dongle or a USB modems from Verizon or AT&T as an example, and start streaming that live from this receiver, or sorry, from this transmitter. It also has the ability to have a SD card put in there. So it's got an SD card slot, so you can do local proxy records and then access those proxy records remotely as well. So again, as I mentioned, we do support the cinematic cameras as well, such as the FS7. The FS7 actually has a build-up kit for it, so you can turn that into more of an ENG run and gun style camera. The build-up kit allows you to put drop-in audio in there, V-mount batteries, and then of course gives you the wireless functionality on the FS7, because the FS7 doesn't have it built into it in terms of wireless functionality. And then the Wi-Fi, so you can connect that directly. And then it also has an extension unit if you want to do wired connection and other connections as well. Let me know if I'm breaking up at all, or if you have any, because my internet's been a bit weird the last couple of days, and I can change over to my phone. But also, if you have any questions, please stop me as we go through, and I'll try and respond to those as we go through the presentation. Wanted to add another thing here was XDCam Pocket. So this basically allows you to download a free application on your phone and then stream from your phone. So good for photographers who might not have a camera when they need to shoot a breaking news story, or journalists who might show up to a story before the photographer does. They can then stream directly from their phone the same way you would with a camcorder. And it's got some cool features to it, but the neat thing is again, it's a free download, and you register it as a new device into your system essentially once you have that rights access. So again, free download, and you can have as many as you want within the system. On the bottom right here, I have a PWS 110RX1A. This is a receiver essentially that receives the streams, while the connections are administered essentially through the cloud using an HTML5 browser, such as I'm going to show you today using Chrome. We can access the stream, or we can access the phone essentially, and start and stop the stream. And that stream will go directly from the phone to the receiver in, well, we're just about to launch the lowest latency at 0.7 seconds. So pretty quick. This is the receiver, just kind of a close-up. This is to get you the SDI output. We do have virtual receivers that can run in the cloud to provide our TMP outputs to a destination of your choice. But this one here is really just to get you that SDI output for baseband that you might want to run to an in-house router and a switcher as well. And again, the lowest latency that you will get from your camera to this receiver is 0.7 seconds. So one of the things that's pretty unique to the cameras is the ability to do not only a single link stream, but also a dual link stream. So we support, obviously, as I was mentioning before, the connections using a USB adapter or a USB modem for your connection to Verizon and AT&T, but we also support two of those. So on the shoulder mount cameras, there's a little adapter that splits out to two USB connections, and that will allow you to connect to Verizon and AT&T, or a different combination of carriers that you might want. Obviously, this gives you the added redundancy, of getting those live streams back from the field. And the great thing is it's compact, so you're not having to carry around additional transmitters and batteries for those transmitters. And of course, all the encoding is already in the camera. So it does all the H.264, H.265 encoding depending on the camera model. And again, it aggregates the data equally among both streams, like a bonded cellular connection. We don't call it bonded. It's called dual link from Sony's perspective, but essentially it is bonding between those two streams. And then I talked briefly about the remote control. So the remote control really gives you the ability to do some basic remote control of the cameras. You won't really have painting functionality or anything like that, but it does give you that basic control in terms of zoom, focus, gain, iris control, as well as white balance presets or manually adjusting white balance. And we've just recently added the ability to locally record and start and stop recording in the local camera. So, a lot of photographers won't necessarily need this functionality, but you might have junior photographers out there who may not know how to operate the camera, and you might want to do that from the station. You may have cameras that put on sticks that are in a courtroom for 20 hours. You don't want to have a photographer standing around for 20 hours. So you can not only adjust the look, but also start and stop the records as well. And then, as I'm going to mention a little bit later, you can actually reach in and pull media out of the camera remotely as well. This one's pretty unique in terms of the fact that we can send story slugs, story names from your newsroom computer system into the camera. So the camera media will basically be recorded based on that story slug name. And then that really means that when that file is pushed back into your production system, it matches the name of the story that was originated in your NRCS. So pretty neat in the fact that, if you have a story name called, I don't know, you might want to call it COVID or something like that. You might be doing a COVID story, it would send it out to the camera, and every clip that would be recorded on that camera would be COVID 001 as a first clip, COVID 002 as a second, 003 as a third, fourth, etc. And again, then when it's brought back into the system, it's obviously meaningful as opposed to a generic file name. We can also do a sidecar XML, which will have additional metadata from the newsroom computer system, and that would be pushed into the camera, and then it would do a round trip to the camera as the camera pushes the newly recorded clips out back to your production system. You'll have a sidecar XML with the planning metadata as well. Backup and geolocation functions, again, with the cameras, they have GPS built into them, so you can enable or disable the GPS if you want. The cameras come with the GPS disabled, but you can enable them, and that's typically good for assignment desks where they're trying to assign photographers to breaking news stories, and obviously the person closest to that story is going to get there first, so they would dispatch that camera. And again, I'm going to show you this in a working UI in a second. So go to the next slide here. Okay, so this is really the last slide. I just kind of really want to highlight how we can make the day-to-day workflows more efficient in terms of file transfers. And this is an example of a file transfer. So we might have a photographer who goes out and shoots B-roll footage. Typically what they're doing now is what I see a lot of stations doing is after the B-rolls footage is shot, what they'll do is they'll play that out live out of the camera into a backpack. The backpack will then do a live stream across the internet as they've coordinated with somebody at the station to record that. It's decoded from the provider, the backpack provider, and sometimes output as an SDI and then re-encoded into the production system. So a lot of different steps there, and you're requiring the photographer to coordinate this with the station, and you're also requiring the photographer to stop what they're doing to make this happen. The advantage of having the connectivity directly to the camera and access directly to the camera is you eliminate a lot of those steps, and you also get the original quality footage back from the camera. So there's no variable bit rate or anything like that. The highest quality proxy record we do right now is 9 megabits per second. But you not only have access to the proxy file, you also have access to the high-res MXF file from the camera. So as my photographer, for example, is outside shooting a breaking news story, I can be accessing and looking at the clips in their camera and accessing transferring that media as they're shooting. So in this case, the photographer doesn't have to put the camera down. They don't have to connect to a backpack. They don't have to pull the SD card or the SBE card out of the camera and put it into a laptop to figure out how to transfer the files. All this can be done by the editor, for example, or the producer, or whoever needs that media as the photographer shooting that material. So that's one of the really unique efficiencies, essentially, that you can get with the direct camera connectivity. So I'm going to stop this now, and I'm going to jump into, well, actually, before I should go, are there any questions before we go to the UI? No. Okay. So I'm going to just give a demonstration of the user interface now. This is what we call XDCam Air. You can access this anywhere you have internet access. It runs on HTML5, so it's running on a Chrome browser here. And there's a few tabs at the top. We're going to go through the tabs. I'm going to start with the Live tab. The Live tab gives you access to see all of your transmission devices that are currently online. And it also gives you access to see the receivers that you might have. So these were the physical receivers that I was demonstrating before, our RX1A, that I have located in Detroit, at one of my colleagues' house. And then I have one in our lab in San Jose. Each receiver will accept up to 2 simultaneous SDI streams. And of course, we can have pretty much as many cameras as you want connected to the system here in terms of the transmission devices. So we have 2 cameras connected today. This one is Joe's PXWZ280, which is in Detroit. This is mine in Toronto, in Canada. And the thumbnails here update about every couple seconds to give you an idea of the status of what's going on at the location of the camera. But we have the control to really just drag and drop and start a stream here. But before I do that, I want to show you the settings on the right-hand side here. So under the streaming side here, it gives us kind of the status of the name of the camera. It gives us the voltage, what's going on with the battery. It also gives us the ability to choose the codec. So this particular camera supports H.264 and H.265. And then we can also choose the delays. As I mentioned, we do have a new delay coming out, 0.7 seconds, going to be out very soon. So we are cutting that shortest delay in half. And it's actually, the quality is really impressive. The typical stream will, I'm going to start streaming, for example. So I'm going to start my stream here. I'm just going to drag and drop it into Joe's receiver, and it's going to negotiate that connection, and it'll start streaming in a few seconds. Once that starts, we're going to see on the right-hand side here the status of that connection. A typical connection will be between 5 and 8 megabits per second. It is variable bit rate, so it depends on what's going on, how much noise there is in the picture, etc. But it shows you here that I'm connected to LTE. TELUS is my provider in Toronto, and our bit rate right now is about 5 megabits per second. It does 2 channels of audio, streams 2 channels, and the audio will always be in sync with the video. So again, I just have my camera connected with an LTE dongle, USB dongle plugged into it right now. I could also stream it to my home network, but my upload isn't very good on my home network, especially with my kids playing video games all the time. So yeah, I'm just connected to my USB modem. And you can see that status here. So as you can see, it's going up and down a little bit. The bit rate is varying, and I'm on the shortest delay. So that's really it. I mean, you just drag and drop and you're good to go. Now it's streaming to Joe's physical receiver, providing an SDI output, a baseband output of that stream. We also have the option to create virtual receivers. So I can create a virtual receiver, a cloud receiver, and I could call it just SMPTE. Oops, spelled that wrong. SMPTE. And what this does, this allows you to create a virtual receiver in the cloud, essentially, that will take the stream from the Sony cameras and then output to the destination of your choice via an RTMP or an RTMPS stream. So if I do streamcast here, I can select output 1 or output 2, and this is where you would enter your endpoint and your stream key. So for example, if you had Facebook or a YouTube stream key and URL, these are where you would enter them. I don't have that right now on me, so I'm just going to disable that and click create. And basically what happens is you'll have, where did it go? Here, you have a cloud receiver here. So what happens now is I could drag and drop any one of these cameras into our SMPTE cloud receiver, and that would essentially stream out to your URL endpoints that you had set up through Facebook or YouTube Live. We can also do multiple receivers. So you can select, for Joe's camera here, for example, on the outputs here, you have a main output. So I can select to stream to not only Joe's receiver in Detroit, but I can also select sub outputs. So I can send to a receiver in Detroit, I can send to a receiver in San Jose, I can send to our cloud receiver that we just created here, all at the same time. As soon as I click start, it would send from that camera to multiple devices at once. Technically, how it works is we go from the camera to the first receiver, and then from the first receiver, it sends it off to the other receiver. So it's not pushing multiple streams essentially out of the camera. It's one stream out of the camera to the first receiver, and then goes to the other receivers after that. The remote control tab here, I'm going to go back to Joe's camera. The remote control tab here gives you the functionality to do basic control again. So we could do zoom control. It is a little bit delayed, but it's usually good enough to do what you need to do in terms of setting the shot up. So there you can see it in the thumbnail. We just zoomed in on Joe's camera a bit. We can zoom on again here. And you'll see the zoom control there. And then you have the other basic settings here as well. The cool thing is the ability to do the record start and record stop. And I'm going to come back to this in a couple minutes after we actually send some planning metadata to Joe's camera. The other one is GPS. So this is the GPS that I was talking about before. We can see our cameras that are online and where they're located. So you can see Joe's in Detroit here, and I'm in Toronto. When you click on the tag, it'll show you the camera, and it'll show you the name. Of course, you can customize the names. It'll also show you where that camera was last connected or when it was last connected. So if my camera was online, it would show it was last connected in Toronto at that location. It'll give you the specific coordinates as well here. So it'll give you the actual longitude and the actual address of the location of the camera. So that's really it for the streaming portion of it. Pretty straightforward. And again, the key advantage is, you don't have to have any additional equipment on the camera apart from your modem or however you connect it to the internet. All that encoding is really built into the cameras. So that's the live part. I'm going to talk about the file access section now, and how we can create planning metadata for those cameras. I'm in the planning, so I'm in the second tab here now. You see planning. This is where you can actually choose your newsroom computer system. So we have two demos here. We have an iNews system and a newsroom and an EMPS connected. I can also create local. So I can create a local. I'm going to do that here just for today. I can go here, create. We can call this SMT April 21st. Actually, let's just do SMT April. Okay, so I'm going to create a story name essentially called SMT April. Once that's done, I have the choice to push this metadata essentially to one camera or all cameras. In this case, I'm just going to send it out to my camera here. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to stop the stream just so I'm not eating up all my bandwidth here. So I can, select SMT April that we just created, and you can create multiple story names and push multiple story names to the cameras. But in this case, I'm going to push this to my camera, and I click assign. What happened there is it's pushed that story to the camera. It hasn't loaded it as an active story, but it's pushed it. So you can have multiple names in the camera, and the camera photographer has the ability to load the story of their choice. Or we can go in right now, when I click in on here, click on planning metadata, to actually look through and sift through the story names that are available in the camera currently. So we just loaded SMT April, and we should see it pop up here at the very bottom. There's SMT April there. And we can see the story that's actually loaded right now is Smart and Test 1, 2, 3. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to actually load this into the camera. So click load. And what will happen is you will see SMT April show up in the viewfinder of the camera. So now when the camera starts recording, you're going to see SMT April 001, 002, 003, etc. So I'm going to go now to, I want to show you the ability to record that. And I'm going to show you where it shows up. So we're going to go back to our live tab. We're going to go back to my camera. And we're going to click on remote. And I'm going to do record. Okay, so I'm going to click on record here, and we're going to record a local clip on that camera. And then we're going to stop it. Okay, so I just recorded a clip on that camera. Now we're going to go into the camera. So we're going to click on transfer on the transfer tab up here. Click on transfer. And I can click on my camera. and I can see the clip that we just created. So you see that SMT April 001. So all that is done in a matter of seconds. We were able to create the story name, push it out to the camera, load it as an active story, and start recording. I now have the option to do a proxy transfer. So I can do a low res transfer of this, or sorry, do a transfer of the low res file, or I can transfer the high res file from this camera as well. So I'm going to show you an example of doing a proxy transfer. So if we do proxy transfer, what will happen is it's going to transfer the proxy file out of the camera and bring it into our XDCam Air cloud here. I'm going to show you the job list. It's going to show you transferring. You see it transferring here right now, and about 16 megabits per second. It'll be complete in a second. And now that file will be available in our asset tab. So I've just pulled the proxy, just transferred that proxy file into our cloud here, our asset tab. And you'll see it here, it's generating the thumbnail, and in a second you'll see that thumbnail, and there it is. So SMT April 0001, as I mentioned. Click on that. And now I can play it back. So there you go. And that's the proxy file. So it just shows you how quickly you have access to that media and how quickly you can transfer it and then manage it from there. You can also download this. So I can download this clip. Where is it? Here. I can't remember where the download button is. I'll show you that in a, where is it? There's somewhere you can download. I can't remember right now. So I'm going to go back to the transfer. And I'm going to just do another clip because I want to show you, I'm going to go back to my camera here. I want to show you some clips that I shot this morning of the snow. So think of it as these clips are not in the cloud, apart from the one that we just transferred up here. These clips are in the camera. So as your photographers out there shooting, we can be looking at the clips in the camera, and not only looking at the clips in the camera, I can choose a clip here. If I double click it, I can play it back from the camera as the camera's recording. So you could be recording other media out in the field, and here I am playing back content from the camera live, essentially, before you even decide to transfer it. So that's pretty neat. So once I've done that though, so I know what these clips are because I recorded them, but I'm just going to take these two clips. I'm going to do a proxy transfer these out of the camera. We can go to our job list. I can see that these are going to start transferring. And in the meantime, I can also look at Joe's camera. So I can look at Joe's camera and see what clips are available in his camera, and I can transfer clips out of his camera as well. So again, I'm just doing the proxies. I'm going to show you why I'm doing the proxies. So I'm going to let this other one transfer, and then we'll see it populate in a second. We're going to go back to our asset tab. Okay. And this is where these files have been pushed from our camera. They're now in our cloud. And what I'm going to do is I am going to start with SMT April, the first clip that we created. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start creating a storyboard. Oh, sorry, I clicked the wrong clip. This one here. I wanted this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to create a storyboard. We're going to create a new storyboard. Here, I'm going to call it SMT April. And click create. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a storyboard. And in that storyboard, this is where I have the ability to pull other clips that we had from the camera into our storyboard, trim them, and basically create a rough storyboard. So let's say, for example, this is the clip that we wanted. We could do, we could trim this clip a little bit. And then I want to bring other clips in here as well. So let's bring in the clips I heard from this morning. 2 of them here. And you may not want the whole part of the clip, so you could play the clip back here. Oops, sorry. Oh, hang on. Play the clip. Play the clip back. I can do a mark in. I can do a mark out. And you'll see I adjusted the clip there. I'm going to bring in, actually, we'll just do, where's my other one here? I'll bring in one more clip here. All right, so here I've got 3 clips from the camera. Oops. Sorry. I'll edit that. So I'm just going to shorten these clips just for the purpose of showing you how we can transfer. So you might have recorded a long 1-hour clip or something. You only need a few seconds of it. What you could do from here is we can now play back the storyboard. Oh, hang on. Here, play back the storyboard of our 3 clips. Okay. And what I can do from here is I can export. So I can export this to render as an output. I can export it to publish to social media as well, such as Twitter. So you can publish it directly to Twitter. Normally news doesn't do this. So what is advantageous for news is the ability to export with the EDL. So if you export with an EDL, I can go in and choose the editor of your choice. For example, Avid Media Composer. I can choose the delivery type. So in this example, I wanted to transfer the high res as well as the EDL that we created in the storyboard. So it can then be imported into the editor of your choice. So I click EDL on high res. It's going to only send the partial retrieve. So that's the important part. So again, if you've got a 1 hour clip and we've trimmed it down to only 5 seconds, it's only going to pull out 5 seconds of the high res. So you're not having to send that entire raw high res clip back. You have the option to select clip pre and post rolls, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, or 10 seconds, and then your destination. So these are preset destinations that you might set up, and the cameras will do FTP transfers. So you can set to an FTP server that you might have at the facility. Or in my case, I'm going to go to our cloud service, Sony C. And then I can click OK. And what I'll do is I'll start preparing the EDL file. It's going to FTP that into our Sony C account, as well as the high-res files. So it's going to send the partial retrieve of the MXF files. And of course, we could have chosen the proxies as well if you want to do the proxy workflow. But the cool thing here, again, is you can have an editor doing this without having to interrupt the photographer at all, create the storyboard, and only pull the partial retrieves if they want. So yeah, you'll see this the job list here. You click on the job list, and you'll see the transfers happening here. So we've got one more clip that's just transferring here, but 8 megabits per second, so it's almost done. All right, so that's everything transferred. So let me just hide this window. There's in my way. So I'm going to go into my C workspace. This is the Sony C where the media can be sent to, which I sent to in this instance, Sony C. And what we'll do is we'll see here in our workspace that media that has been transferred. We'll just see here. So you see here, here's the SMPTE April. This is the AAF. This is the EDL file that we created that you can now bring into your Avid Media Composer. And the video files associated with that are here as our MXF files, right? So there's our files there processing as MXF files. And again, these are just the partial retrieves. Now you might be wondering what these are. These are the XMLs. So it pulls out the XML or say the metadata and puts it in an XML and sends it with each clip. But now my editor has the high res MXFs, 1, 2, 3 clips here. And then they also have the EDL that they can now open in their editor and continue editing where that storyboard was left off. So again, all of this is done without having to pull the media out of the camera, transfer the media, or use any other kind of encoding techniques. So that in a nutshell is really what you can do with it. I want to show you one more thing with Adobe Premiere in terms of Adobe Premiere. Very similar, except we've got the plugin within Adobe Premiere here. So I have access to all the files that we just uploaded. Now you can set the cameras to auto upload as well. So if you're not worried about bandwidth, you can set the camera so as soon as the clip is closed, it will automatically push the media into the cloud. And then you have immediate access to it. And again, these are up to 9 megabit per second, 1920, 1080 files. So they're pretty good. We've had them go to air depending on the urgency of the story, and obviously more than enough essentially for digital distribution. So in this case, these are the clips that we uploaded. You can see here from the camera, and now I can click on this clip and I can bring it into my bin in Adobe Premiere. It's going to download. You'll see it here. So it's going to transfer. And once that's downloaded into my local computer here, essentially, I can drag and drop into my timeline and continue editing. And that's it. That's the clip directly in Adobe. So we have some additional workflows to that as well. We actually have the ability to pull the proxy into Adobe to do your editing, but we also have the option for Adobe to reach back to the camera and pull partial retrieve as well. So that's another option that you can do directly from within the editor. So yeah, I know I've said a lot. I think that's most of what I needed to cover. Again, the cameras, they do two types of records at the same time simultaneously. They do a proxy record on one type of media and the high res on another type. And of course, you can set them to whatever needs you need to. I think that's about it. Any questions?
I know you mentioned EMPS. Will this interface with Delete?
Currently, it's Octopus, the EMPS, and iNews are the current ones. Dalet, I don't think so yet, but we haven't had a specific request. So is it MOS protocol? If it's MOS protocol out of that, it shouldn't be difficult, because essentially what happens is we put a gateway server that does MOS protocol communication, and Dalet shouldn't be much different than the others.
Yep. Yeah, Delete uses MOS protocol. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, so it's just we haven't had a specific request for it. So if we did, then yeah, it wouldn't be an issue. And I can go back to the planning here. You can see I'm going to go to our iNews system, for example, here. It may not be online here. Okay, so this is our ENPS system, and these were stories that were created in ENPS. But essentially, as soon as it's created within that user computer system, it's pushed into via MOS protocol into our gateway, which then pushes it into the cloud. So you literally see this populate within about a second after it's created in that user computer system. And on the next release of this, actually, we're providing the ability to automatically populate these to the camera of your choice. So you wouldn't have to go into the UI here. You would be able to set that from your NRCS to have the NRCS to automatically push into the cameras, and then you just have your photographer choose the story that they're going to shoot at that particular time. Any other questions?
So Martin, when you've got you can hook your camera, your phone up to the camera out in the field. Am I able to see the image that the camera is capturing on my phone?
Okay. So you're the photographer, you mean, and you want to see the image on your phone at the same time?
Yes.
It depends. It depends how it's connected. So if you're connected through a hotspot, for example, that your phone is connected to and the camera is connected to, then yes, you'd be able to see that using Content Browser Mobile. You'd be able to see the image, which is our free app for it. But if you're tethered to the phone, then no, you wouldn't be able to see it, because the camera itself would just be using the phone as a strict tethering device, but it wouldn't really have communication to the camera at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. So we see this, is not a replacement for backpacks. Obviously, backpacks are very solid systems out there, and with multiple SIMs, especially when you need 4 or 5 or 6 SIM cards. The most we do is 2 connections for that bonding or dual link. So we see this in a lot of cases a complement to those systems for, facilities who might not be able to have the budgets to provide a backpack for every one of their photographers. This allows the photographers to kind of shoot, gives them a little more freedom in terms of not having to be tied to the cost of an external transmitter and the availability of an external transmitter. But also gives you a lot more reach with the file-based workflows now. I know you can do store and forwards with some of the other solutions as well, but this gives you a lot more connectivity in terms of what you can do pulling directly out of the camera. And again, I think that we see a lot of need for this in terms of, again, the photographer just leaving the photographer alone to do what they do best, shooting the stories, and then having somebody else reach into the camera and pull all that media out as needed.
I have a question on transfers and downloads.
Mm-hmm.
Now, an instance where, as we all know, battery power does not last as long during cold temperatures. Mm-hmm. What happens if we lose power or battery power during that download or auto download?
So that's a good question. What will happen is it's going to queue the files up in a queue essentially within the camera. And if the transfer gets disrupted, like you said, you might go under a bridge. I mean, you might have this transferring in your vehicle as you're driving, and you might go under a bridge or a tunnel where you might get disconnection, or like you said, you change the battery. When the camera comes back up, and as soon as it's connected back to the internet, it's going to continue where it left off. So if you were transferring a huge file, like a 1 gig file, and it was halfway through, it would continue halfway through when it got reconnected to the internet. It's also important to note that the only time it won't transfer files when it's connected to the internet is when you're doing a live stream, because it's putting all its resources and all the bandwidth toward that live stream. But that doesn't mean that you can't remotely view the media at that same time when the camera is streaming. You can still remote into the camera. You can select the clips and transfer or click the clips that you want to transfer, and it'll put it in a queue. As soon as the camera stops streaming, live streaming, it will automatically start pushing those files up to the cloud.
Great.
Sounds good.
Anything else? Any other questions?
Martin, I have one question. Do you provide demo systems, or would that be something that we could possibly speak privately about?
Absolutely, we do. So we provide, this is actually really straightforward. So we can actually set you up with a demo of the UI really quickly without any hardware actually. So you can start by just using your phone with the free XDCam Pocket just to play around with it before you even have any hardware. And then, yeah, we always work with our customers to send a camera out if you want to try it and put it through its paces. And then, of course, if you want to do the baseband output, we can provide a physical receiver as well. The physical receiver requires a couple port forwarding rules to be put in place in terms of a couple TCP ports and some UDP ports in terms of the networking side. But yeah, we can definitely discuss further. Be happy to talk after if you wish.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions? Martin, thank you. Very informative.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for coming out tonight. Hope you learned a little something. And like I said, if you have any suggestions for next month or any of the months going forward, please let me know. I do have some ideas. If you like to discuss your ideas, I'd be happy to listen. And definitely get something out to you about the Chapter 37 meeting coming up June 1st. As soon as I get the information on that, we'll get it off to you. Watch your emails. Quiet group tonight. Pretty tired. I know it's depressing weather doesn't really do much for anybody here, but
Nope.
things will get better. Well, stay safe, everybody, and thanks again for coming out.
It's nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Have a great night.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Stay safe.
Take care.
Tom, thank you, Martin.
Thanks, everybody.
Very
Bye.
informative.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Martin.